Chapter 3, Lesson 5, Graph a line using intercepts. The essential question, why are graphs helpful? Vocabulary, x-intercept and standard form. Real-world link, movies. Mrs. Hodges spent $80 on movie tickets and drinks for her son and his friends. The total cost of X movie tickets and Y drinks is represented by the equation 8x plus 4y equals 80. To the right, you can see table values where it says the item, which is ticket and drink, and the cost. Each ticket is $8, each drink is $4. Number 1, complete the steps below to write the equation in slope-intercept form. As a reminder, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to get our y term by itself. So let's go ahead and start with subtracting 8x from both sides. That leaves us with 4y on the left side equals 80 minus 8x. The next step is to get our y term by itself, meaning we divide both sides by 4. 4y divided by 4 leaves you with 1y, or in this case, y. Then we do 80 divided by 4, which is 20, and negative 8x divided by 4, which is negative 2x. So just in case, I'm going to show this work off to the right side. So again, 80 divided by 4 minus 8x divided by 4. Then when we have y equals 20 minus 2x, I need to reverse the order. So then that way I have my mx term first and my b term second. So I am going to add and make this into a negative 2x. And I'm going to switch the order and make this negative 2x plus 20. So as we learned in the last section, negative 2 is my slope. That is my variable m. And my y-intercept is 20. Or you can write that as 0, 20. Let's graph the equation. Step 1 is to graph the y-intercept. So I'm going to write that in there. Graph y-intercept. So I'm going to go over to 0, up 20, and plot the point. Then my slope tells me negative 2. So then I'm going to use the slope to graph at least 2 more points. So in this case, if I know that my slope is negative 2, I'm going to make that into a fraction and make that over 1. So that means I go down 2 to the right 1. So if I start at 20, I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. Well, the scale doesn't really work well like that, so I'm actually going to try going down 4 to the right 2. Down 4 to the right 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect my points. Okay, so then ask, what does the point 0, 20 represent? Well, that's a great question. In order to know that, I should probably go back for graphing my equation and labeling what my x-axis is and what my y-axis represents. So my x-axis represents the ticket cost, and the y-axis represents the drink cost. So, what does the point 0, 20 represent? This means that Mrs. Hodges could purchase 20 drinks and no tickets Let's continue. Slope-intercept form. The x-intercept of a line is the x-coordinate of the point where the graph crosses the x-axis. Since any linear equation can be graphed using 2 points, you can use the x and y intercepts to graph an equation. So example 1, state the x and y intercepts of y equals 1/2 x minus 9. Then use the intercepts to graph the equation. So over to the left, I'm going to write y equals 1 5/10 x minus 9. So step 1, we're going to find the y intercept. Well, this equation is written in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Again, we learned this in the last section. So if I go in here and I change this to adding a negative, I want to focus on what my b value is. So in this case, it's going to be a negative 9. So my b equals negative 9. So if I write that as an ordered pair of 0, comma b, that's going to be 0, comma negative 9. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 9. As we also discussed in the last unit, or the last section, b represents the y-intercept. Now for step 2, we are going to find the x-intercept. In order to do that, we need to allow y to equal 0. And the reason for that is for the x-intercept is we have x comma 0 as the ordered pair. So that means that y equals 0. So if I take the equation y equals 1 5/10 x plus negative 9, I'm going to plug 0 in for y. And that is because y equals 0. So 0 equals 1 5/10 x plus negative 9. Well, I'm going to start by adding 9 to both sides. So 9 equals 1 5/10 x. I'm going to divide both sides by 1 5/10, which equals 6. So that means that my x-intercept is at 6, comma 0. Then for my third step, graph x and y intercepts. So I know my x-intercept is at 6, comma 0, and my y-intercept is at 0, comma 0, comma negative 9. So if I go to 6, comma 0, I start at 0, 0, go to the right 6 to go up. And then if I plot 0, negative 9, I start at 0, 0, and then I go down to negative 9. And I'm going to go ahead and get my graphing tool. I'm going to connect a line through these points. I'm going to put an arrow on each end. So now we're going to try these next two problems to find out if we understand it. So step number 1 for letter A. So I'm going to put letter A. Step 1. Well, in case I forgot, I can always go back up to my notes. Step 1 is to find the y-intercept. Okay? So y equals mx plus b. Then I'm going to write my equation underneath. Y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5. So that means that my b is at 0, 5. Then step 2, well, let's go back. Step number 2 is to find the x-intercept. So in order to find the x-intercept, I need to plug 0 in for y. So x-intercept, that's going to be x comma 0. So that means y equals 0. So 0 equals negative 1/3 x plus 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Negative 5 equals negative 1/3 x. I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative 1/3, which is negative 3 divided by 1. So I have 15 equals x. So in this case, my x-intercept equals 15, 0. So I want to go ahead and I want to plot those points. That's step 3. So I'm going to start with 0, 5, and then 15, 0. Well, 15, 0 is about right there. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to draw a line connecting these 2 points. Okay. Then I'm going to draw arrows on both ends. All right, letter B. Step 1 is to identify the y-intercept. Y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 3 halves x plus 3. So if I want to focus on my b value, the b value is going to be 3. So that is the order bearer of 0, 3. Then I have step 2. I want to solve my x-intercept. Again, that's x, 0. So that means that y is always going to equal 0 if I'm solving for the x-intercept. So 0 equals negative 3 halves x plus 3. I'm going to solve an equation. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Negative 3 equals negative 3 halves x. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2/3, so multiplying by the reciprocal. The left side I'm going to put divided by 1. So then this becomes 6 divided by 3 equals x. So x equals 2. The x-intercept is then going to be a 2, 0. So I'm going to plot my ordered pairs of 0, 3 and 2, 0. So 0, 3 is up here. 2, 0 is down here. Then I'm going to take the line and I'm going to connect those points. Lastly, I'm going to put arrows on each end. Let's continue. Standard form. An equation is written in the form ax plus by equals c, where a is greater than or equal to 0, and a, b, and c are integers. It is written in standard form. Integers. As a reminder, integers are positive or negative whole numbers. Example. Modding Middle School wants to make $4,740 from yearbooks. Print yearbooks cost $60 and digital yearbooks cost $15. This can be represented by the equation 60x plus 15y equals 4,740. So example 2, we're going to use the x and y intercepts to graph the equation. Well, to solve for the x-intercept, y must equal 0. To solve for the y-intercept, you have x equals 0. So you can see the work below that 60x plus 15y equals 4,740. This is going to be solving for the x-intercept. That means that y equals 0. Because when you have the x-intercept, that's going to be x, 0 as the ordered pair. So they put in the 0 right here. And that gives you 60x equals 4,740. You divide both sides by 60. And you get the answer of x equals 79. If you want to find the y-intercept, then we know that x must equal 0 because the y-intercept is always going to be 0, b. So as we do that, we get 15y equals 4,740. Divide 15 from both sides. You get y equals 316. So example number 3 is to interpret the x and y intercepts. Let's emphasize this word interpret. It's like when you are learning a foreign language. If you have someone interpret for you, that means that they explain it to you. So interpret means explain the x and y intercepts. Meaning, what does 79, 0 mean? What does 0, 316 mean? So the x-intercept is at the point 79, 0. This means they can sell 79 print yearbooks and 0 digital yearbooks to earn $4,760. I'm sorry, $4,740. The y-intercept is at the point 0, 316. This means that they can sell 0 print yearbooks and 316 digital yearbooks to earn $4,740. So do you got that? Let's figure out if you do by trying this problem. Mr. Davies spent $230 on lunch for his class. Sandwiches X cost $6 and drinks Y cost $2. This can be represented by the equation 6x plus 2y equals 230. We're going to use the x and y intercepts to graph the equation, then interpret the intercepts. So I'm going to highlight this equation that we have right there. And I'm going to rewrite it off to the right in my workspace. 6x plus 2y equals 230. Well, I want to solve for the x-intercept, and I want to solve for the y-intercept. So if I have the x-intercept, that means I want to make y equals 0. So 6x plus 2 times 0 equals 230. So 6x equals 230. I have to divide both sides by 6. I get x equals, bear with me a moment, $38 and 33 thirds repeating. So because it isn't a whole number, I am going to round that to 38. Just because you can't have part of a sandwich. You can only have whole sandwiches. And then the y-intercept means that I'm going to have x equals 0. So 6 times 0 plus 2y equals 230. So that becomes 2y equals 230. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I get y equals 115. So that ordered pair is 0, 115. That's my y-intercept. My x-intercept is at 38, 0. So if I plot 38, 0, and if I plot 0, 115, and I connect these points, now we can interpret the intercepts. So, Mr. Davies can purchase 38 and 33 hundredths sandwiches and no drinks. So that's for the x-intercept. Now for the y-intercept, this means that Mr. Davies can purchase 115 drinks, and no sandwiches for $230. I'm going to add that in for my X-Intercept for $230.